In this video we will be talking a little bit more about solvers in Obi Cloth version 5. In the first video we briefly mentioned the existence of a solver component, but we didn't really pay much attention to it. As you can see here, I have a cloth blueprint already created, which is basically the same as the flag blueprint in the previous video, just a square piece of cloth with a particle group defined for the two particles at the corners. I am going to create a cloth object by going to 3D object, Obi Cloth, and as we did last time, I'm going to drag the cloth blueprint here. Now, in order to make this a little bit more beautiful, I will assign a material for the front faces and a material for the back faces. Quick note, this is only necessary if you're using the Unity's built-in pipeline. If you're using the universal render pipeline or the high definition render pipeline, those pipelines have materials that let you choose between rendering only the front faces or both front and back faces. So in those pipelines it isn't necessary to use two materials. You can use just one two-sided material to render both sides of the cloth. Okay, if I now click play, we will get the cloth falling due to gravity, so I'm going to add an attachment, and this time I will attach the corner particles to the cloth transform itself, so that when we move the cloth transform around, the corner particles will follow. If I now click play, we can see that this works as intended. However, the cloth is very stretchy. This happens because the solver doesn't have enough budget to perform an accurate simulation in a single frame, so the cloth can't reach the stiffness we would want it to. So in order to increase the precision of the simulation, we can tell the solver to chop up each physics step into multiple substeps. In this case, I will try with 3 substeps instead of just 1. And if I now click play, you can see that things have improved quite a bit. Not only the stretching of the cloth has improved, but also it bends a little less than it did the last time. So it looks kind of like plastic sheet or something like that. So I'm going to increase the max bending so that it looks a little bit more like cloth. Okay, that's much better. Now, if we have multiple solvers in the scene, I'm going to create another one here. We can repattern the cloth to a new solver and things will still work just fine. If we have multiple cloth actors in the same solver, things will work just fine. And we can also have actors outside of a solver. If they are outside of the solver, they won't be simulated or rendered, so keep that in mind. Now, if I try to transform the cloth itself, you will see that it doesn't really behave like any other Unity object. The two corners are being scaled, but the rest of the simulation has to follow those 2 points. So this isn't really the kind of scaling we are used to. This is because we aren't rigidly scaling the cloth as a wall, we are only scaling the corners. If we wanted to scale the simulation, the entire simulation as a rigid object, we need to scale the solver itself. Scale or rotate or transform in any way. So as you can see, if I scale the solver, the entire simulation scales with it. If I have multiple cloth actors inside the same solver, and I scale the solver or rotate it, for instance, all the actors rotate rigidly with it. Gravity is defined per solver, and it is always applied in the solver's local space. So in this case, as you can see, gravity is minus 9.8 in the y-axis of the solver, the local y-axis. Okay. So this is pretty much all about solvers. So remember that by scaling, rotating, or translating a solver, you are actually treating all the simulation inside of it like a rigid object, and that you can have multiple solvers in your scene, and each one can manage as many cloth actors as you want. See you in the next video.